Welcome to 3-6 Critical Points in Extrema. This is pre-calculus. I hope you're having as good a day as I am right now. We're going to use a graphing calculator to graph each function and determine and classify its extrema. Okay, so this is my function here. Now, I've already graphed this thing on a calculator, and here's what it looks like. I'll leave that sort of visible so you can see all of it. And this thing is going to have critical points, all right? In particular, that point, and that point. And let's go ahead and label these. Now, your assignment is going to be to classify these points. In other words, is it a maximum or a minimum? And what are the coordinates of those points? So let's go ahead and label them right now. So would this thing be a maximum or a minimum? What do you guys think? It is a minimum. Now, in particular, you got to ask yourself, is it the lowest point on a graph? And it is. It's the lowest point on this graph. So it is called an absolute minimum. And I'll put a blank here for the coordinate of that. This point here is also an absolute minimum. So if you're wondering, can you have two absolute minimums? The answer is yes, you can. It just has to be the lowest point on a graph. This point here, what do we call that? That's good. A relative max. And just because, in case anybody's wondering, it's because of these arrowheads right here going up that this isn't the highest point. It is a relative max. So we'll put a blank there for that point. Now, the purpose of this video is to show you how to find these maximums and minimums. So this here is going to be a little tutorial on how to find a minimum first. So check this out. On your calculator, see that we're right there, it says CALC. We're going to go second calculate or second trace, and it's going to bring up this menu. And on this menu, you can do several different things, and one of them is to find a minimum. So we're going to arrow down to 3, hit enter, and then probably have never seen this before, but it's going to say left bound with a question mark here. And we see a little blinky cursor here in the middle. So we're going to arrow this thing in a smart position. Now we know that this is the minimum that we're trying to find. So what I need to do, what this thing needs me to do, this calculator, is to put this blinky thing on the left side of that minimum. Once I get it over there on that side of the hump somewhere, I'm going to hit enter. Notice it put a little dotted line on mine. Yours may or may not have that. And then it says right bound. So we're going to arrow over on the other side of the hump. Remember, we're finding the bottom here. So we got to put it on the right side. And once we get it over there somewhere, we hit enter. And then it says guess. All right, guess. So we don't actually have to do this because this thing is so powerful. Back in the day, you had to arrow it as close as you could on like a TI-73 or something like that. This, just hit enter. And it's going to tell us that the minimum is negative 1.41. And the y value of that point is negative 6. So as long as this thing doesn't crash on me, I should be able to write that right here. So we're going to call this 1.41 negative 6. That is the coordinate of that absolute minimum. Now we could come over here and find the other minimum. We could. But we can also use our brains here because this is symmetric. This thing is symmetric around the x-axis so that we know. And by the way, that should be a negative. You guys should have been screaming at me right there. That's negative. This one would be positive 1.41 negative 6. Positive. So we get the two absolute minima, negative 1.41 and positive 1.41, and a relative maximum. So just for the heck of it, let's find this maximum point right there. So we'll go second, calculate. We're going to find that maximum. I know that you can probably tell that it's probably 0.2, but I want to show you something of what happens here. So we're going to enter now we're on trying to find a maximum. And it says left bound. So we need to put it on the left side of that hump. So So just kind of get it somewhere halfway up or so. That's good. Hit enter. And then arrow on the other side of it. That's good. Hit enter. It'll say guess. Hit enter. And it's going to give us a value. Now check this thing out. This happens sometimes and people will write down negative 1.37. That's completely incorrect because this says e to the negative 6. That's scientific notation. That means you got to move this decimal back 6 places to the left. So this would be 0.000001. I mean, that's the calculator is trying to do this math, and it's getting lost in its pixels. So it's the same as it's trying to tell you 0, negative 2. And we can finish this problem up as saying 0, negative 2. And that is a relative maximum. This has been Critical Points in Extrema. Have a good one.